guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Neighbor Broke Into My Property at Night to Use My Pool. Created Biohazard. The fact that I even had to write the sentence that is the title of this story is painful. To get right into the story, I have a pool in my backyard that is for my personal use. For a while I had my suspicions that somebody had been messing around back there when I wasn't home. The pool cover would seem to have been taken off and on, the ground would have wet footprints that didn't belong to me, and even some of the furniture seemed to have been moved. This wasn't enough for someone like me to go full spy and install cameras or do a stakeout. I just thought maybe I was seeing things wrong, or maybe the footprints were mine and I forgot. I thought that I would just do something passive and that maybe if someone was doing it they would get the idea. So, I put up a no trespassing sign and called it a day. That didn't seem to do the trick and only led to me learning I couldn't just ignore this problem and hope that it would go away on its own. I went to go swim on a warm Saturday after a long week at work. I take off the pool cover to find a literal piece of shit floating around in the pool. It was pretty easy to tell that it was from a human being, and I know that it happened overnight. I was completely disgusted and couldn't even imagine who would do something like this. In hindsight, I could have called the police at that point to file a report, but I had no idea who had done this. So, I went through the process of having to carefully and with a very long pole remove the waste and drain the entire pool. Let's just say I was in a really bad mood after having to do all this on one of the hottest days. I decided to buy a lock for my gate as well as a small camera that I had placed to face the pool. I had to find out what kind of horrible human being did this and see if I could catch them. It didn't take long for me to see who had been doing this the entire time, my neighbor. She had broken the lock on my gate to gain access to the backyard. Then on camera I could see her swimming around in my pool as she pleased completely naked. That is the only thing that might have been more gross than the poop she left in the other day. Then when she was done I could see her come out of the pool and squat by the edge. She peed and let another poop drop right into the water. I could only guess that she had been swimming at night for a while and my action against it like the sign and lock got her angry enough to leave me those little surprises. Part of me wanted to confront her about what she did and ask why she thought it was okay to use someone's personal pool like it was her own. Not to mention what she did as revenge for me not wanting a random person breaking into my yard. I was far too angry for that though and knew that a large man yelling at a woman on her porch would not be seen as a great thing. So instead, I called the police now that I had all the evidence I needed. They saw the video and seemed as disgusted as I was at what she had done. I was able to file a report against her for trespassing since that was the obvious law that was broken. They got to tell her that if she was ever caught trespassing again they were going to need to arrest her. They told her to stay away from me and not to go on my property again or I could call them and follow through on that threat. Trust me, if she ever showed up again I would have called them in a heartbeat and watched as she was put in the police car and taken away. She seemed to get the idea though because she never tried sneaking over to use my pool again after that. I also got another sign and replaced the lock that she had broken off the gate. There was still one more matter to take care of though. I wasn't going to just let her get away with pooping in my pool. There was really nothing the police could do about that because it didn't actually cause damage, it just caused me some mental anguish. I knew suing her for that wasn't really going to get me anywhere either, so I decided that I was going to get back at her the old-fashioned way. An eye for an eye to show her how gross it really is to have to clean poop off of your property. Now the only downside to this was I couldn't bring myself to gather my own or worse, go outside on her property. I did have a dog though and anybody that has one of those knows that their poop can be quite nasty at times and very plentiful. I had a couple of ways I could have done this, like using her lawn as my own personal dumping ground for my dog's poop. Instead, I decided to wait a few days and gather the decent amount that he had made all at once. If anybody else has a big dog they will know that a big dog equals big poop. Then I put on gloves and tried to not think about what I was doing as I transferred all of it into a paper bag. Finally, I took that bag when I knew nobody was home and left it right on neighbor's porch. I waited from my house until I heard a scream that let me know she saw and opened the bag. The smell must have killed her because even after living with this dog for years and adjusting to it, his poop still smells bad. It was even better though because of the weight the bag broke, and the contents fell right onto the porch and even a little bit on her shoes by the look of it. It wasn't the revenge I had planned exactly, but it was the revenge that karma knew that I deserved. The best part is even though she can guess it was me, she can't really know for sure since I am not the only neighbor that has beef with her. I never did get a big yelling showdown with my neighbor, which was probably for the best. Even long after I was still steamed about what she did and would have liked to find out some of the answers to the questions burning in my mind. Was she dumb enough to think that the pool located in my backyard was open to the public? Did she think that she was just so entitled to my pool that she could use it without asking in the middle of the night? The biggest one being why she decided swimming in someone else's pool naked was the best way to go about it. Still, she is away from my property, and in the end that is worth more than these answers that she probably wouldn't have a good answer to anyway. The next story is titled, My Beautiful Wife vs. Macho Rooster, our entitled neighbor. I shared this story in a small subreddit I like to hang out in, and someone suggested to me that it really belongs here. This is a fresh edit specific to this subreddit. The background. This is a story from years ago when I provide on-site tech work in a niche market all over America. The work is good and pays well, but the traveling can be rough, as I put in some 100,000 miles, 160,000 kilometers, a year by car. As I travel mostly by car, during the summer we pay reliable types to feed the cats and water the lawns and take the whole family on the road. My kids get to see much of America, and parts of Canada and Mexico, and have fantastic vacations while I get to travel and still have the company of my family after work. The trips normally last 3 to 4 months. These are great times. Unfortunately, during the winter, the kids have school and I get to be away on my own anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months on a stretch. Some summers this happens too due to family having other needs back in town. But then they sometimes travel with me for Christmas break too. At least my wife never has to hold down a job while I am working this job. This story happens during one of those times that I am out of town and my beautiful wife is managing things at home. The setup. When we first move into this house, there is a great family that lives across the street from us. They are very respectful and just really great neighbors. They're upper middle class Latinos. They own a bar. They have fixed up their house in some very nice ways, including a wrought iron fence around the yard. Much better than the chain link fence around ours. They have several nice cars. More than they can fit in their driveway. There are always 2 cars parked on the street in front of their house. But they also have a problem. For whatever reason, someone in the local constabulary just cannot accept that a Latino business owner of a bar can make this kind of money without also dealing drugs. Every month the police swoop in with warrants and drug-sniffing dogs and spend hours going through their house and cars with fine-toothed combs. Every month, they leave empty-handed and no arrests, no tickets, no infractions. Nothing. Every month the neighbors come over to apologize for any disturbance this inspection causes us. They are mortified every time it happens. Every month, we tell them not to worry about it. We always reassure them that this says more about the police than it does about them. Believe me, if they had been doing anything at all, they would already have been caught. They appreciate our support. And as my wife and children are also Latino, we are glad to give it. Finally, they've had enough of it. They sell the bar and the house and move to a smaller town in another state with a larger Latino population and open a new bar there. I wish them well. There follows a string of much lower-class Latinos in their old house. None of them live there for very long. I suspect there may be a landlord behind some of this. Some of them are genuinely nice people. We give 2 broken-down vehicles to one fellow who is renting a room in the basement. I decide I'm never going to get the time to swap parts between them to come up with a functioning vehicle, which had been the original plan. He is able to rebuild a single working vehicle and now can travel out of town for work. My only price is that he tows off what he doesn't use, and this he does. Good guy. The macho rooster. Then comes the day the macho rooster moves in. And he lives there for a long time. He is the owner of the house. This makes him a somebody. And somebodies are an entitled thing to be. He struts about in nice clothes and bling. This is his domain. He has declared himself emperor of the street. And any who challenge it will rue the day. Almost immediately we start having trouble with him and his family parking in our driveway or in front of the mailbox. If the mailbox is blocked, the post won't be delivered. My beautiful wife will take the kids to school, or pick them up, and come home to find she has to park on the street. This rubs her all kinds of wrong. But leaving nastygrams on the windshield is not improving things at all. If they get a shot at our driveway, they take it. Weekends are even more fun. Not only is the entire street filled with cars related to his house, but the party and the music is playing so loud all of our windows shake, including the ones in the back of the house. If that is not bad enough, it keeps up until 3, 4 or even 5 in the morning. He has bullied many of the neighbors with his macho posturing. They won't call the police with a noise complaint out of fear. We call. They turn it up even louder after the police leave. Yeah. He's a real class act, this one. The event. So this day, my beautiful wife returns from picking up the kids from school and their car is in our driveway. What's different this time is the young lady sitting in the car waiting for something or someone. Beautiful wife parks on the street, gets the kids in the house, and then comes out to have a chat with the young lady. It goes something like this, translated from Spanish and is related to me by my wife. Beautiful wife. Excuse me. I'm going to need you to move your car out of my property. You have no permission to park here. Young lady. Excuse me? My uncle said I could park here. So you can just duck off. Beautiful wife. Your uncle doesn't own this driveway. He can't give you permission to park in my driveway. That's not how it works. Young lady. He said I can park here. I can park here. She then gets out, locks the car, and walks across the street. Beautiful wife calls after her. I can have you towed, you know. Young lady. You wouldn't dare. Little does she know beautiful wife. Not only does she dare, she has almost done it several times already, but wanted to give them a chance to be warned. Well, now they've been warned. But before she calls a tow truck, beautiful wife has a feeling this may escalate. She calls the non-emergency police line and lets them know the issue she is having with our neighbors. When they get the address, they actually say, "Oh, them." She is looking for a number for a towing company. Remember the good old days when we used yellow pages for things like this, when there comes a knock at the door. It's Macho Rooster. And he is huffing and puffing. Beautiful wife is fearless. She opens the door and confronts him. Macho Rooster. How dare you tell my niece she can't park here? I told her she could. Beautiful wife. What makes you think that matters? You can't give permission to anyone to park on my property. Macho Rooster puffs up his chest more. Look, little lady, you obviously don't know who you are talking to. I can say it. And if I say it, it happens. Beautiful wife laughs. He is actually shorter than her. Look, little man, that macho shit doesn't fly here. Maybe where you are from you're a big deal and that shit works. But where I come from, the men are afraid of the women, not the other way around. We know what rolling pins are good for and we are not afraid to use them. I've a nice marble one in here. Would you like to see it? This obviously did not suit Macho at all. He starts sputtering nearly incomprehensible bits of phrases that include some snippets like, how dare you, and, nobody talks to me like this, and so on, but mostly just sputtering like an old car with gas in the carburetor. Now at this point, beautiful wife takes a stance that is a quick reaction away from demonstrating a beautiful soccer kick to Macho's low-hanging fruit. As she can see, he is about to use something other than his words to get his point across. And she is ready to defend herself. But she can see something he in his sputtering rage cannot. And that is the police car that has just pulled up behind his niece's car. So as Macho's fist raises over his head to beat her into submission, she decides it is worth playing the poor victim and taking the hit. Instead of striking the first blow, she cowers just a little and cries. And tries not to laugh while doing it. To her amazement, the blow never lands. Officer Friendly breaks the speed of light. When he sees the fist go up, he's out of his car, over the hood, over the chain link fence and has Macho's fist in his grip before it can take the swing at her. Very shortly thereafter, Macho is shown a new kind of bling, a set of nice silver bracelets. He is placed in the back of a cruiser. Other police have now arrived. Beautiful wife is the perfect little victim. She is so afraid of him and what he could do to her and her kids, her being here home all alone while her husband is traveling for work. She believes her performance is Oscar-worthy. Doubtful. But it is good enough for the intended audience. The niece is forced to move her car off our property. Macho is not seen in the neighborhood for nearly a week. There are some apparently complicating issues that make this much worse for him, but the police are not free to disclose. We really don't care. The aftermath. For the rest of the time he lives across the street from us, Macho never acknowledges our existence again. He also never allows any of his people to park in our driveway, in front of our mailbox, or anywhere in front of our property. We only have one more all-night music Friday night. But the first visit from the police results in the music going off permanently. Yeah. We called the complaint in. Under his ownership, the house is not properly maintained. It eventually falls into disrepair. He sells it, I suspect, to buy another one to run down. It's the opposite of flipping homes. The next neighbors are even worse, but for other reasons. But that's a story for another day. Beautiful wife. The winner by default. Macho Rooster. Didn't even qualify for the match. The last story is titled, I'm Not Breaking the Law, I'm a Cop. Just read a security guard's encounter with several entitled a-holes, and it reminded me of some of the stuff I experienced as a security guard. These all happened back in my 20s, so a while ago now. Where I live in Yorkshire, we have an industrial estate out of town and a smaller one in town. This night I was on patrol on the smaller one. We were actually only contracted to 6 sites, but they were so spread out I actually had to walk the entire estate, taking about an hour per patrol. As I'm approaching one of the factories I had to go in, I noticed 2 PPL trying to open the locked door. I called out and they both jumped away from the door like they had been shocked. I was in full security uniform. These 2 were dressed all in black and looked guilty as duck in their facial expressions. One of them said he had been fired that day but had been kicked off site before he could clear his locker and had come with his wife to get his stuff back. I didn't believe him, after all it was 1 in the morning. His wife then kicked off saying I should let them in, and they hadn't broken any laws, trying to force the door, so in my opinion that's attempt to burgle. And that she can't be breaking the law as she's a local copper. She refused to show it and got more abusive, so I just keyed my radio, told my boss what was going on. He sent a nearby support team van and called the local station. It all went insane after that. The bloke tried to fight my support, then his wife claimed she was arresting us for obstruction of justice. The local cops turned up and confirmed she was a special constable, part-timer. Her husband agreed to come back in daylight hours after he apologized to my support to avoid getting arrested. The wife, however, insisted I was under arrest, and the full-time officer basically told her to shut up, go home and think whether she should remain a special constable. Never found out what became of them, but I did my job. No one got hurt, so I chalked it up as a win and a good shift. Thank you for listening and wish you all the best for 2023. Happy New Year.